I'm so emotional after today's ReZero Season 2 episode. I watched the episode, no joke, like 3 times, back to back. Then watched the opening song of ReZero Season 2 multiple times. Rewatched the Roswaal confession scene of this final episode multiple times. And just went back to rewatch certain key scenes that foreshadowed some of the things that's happened throughout Season 2 as well. And just like, my God, what a season. What a first half of ReZero Season 2. Like, it's been so long since I have truly 100% been so drawn into a series. Like, just so fascinated by the voice acting, the characters, the story, to just everything going on with the art and animation. There is just so much to pull from this episode, and more so than the other traditional episodes of Season 2 that are already jam-packed. What makes this episode so fantastic is because we get the conclusion of the Tea Party, but also finally the mastermind, the man behind the curtain, the man that has truly been doing everything since the very beginning of the story. And my God, what a reveal. Like, as you all know, I know it was coming. I knew who the mastermind was, Roswaal, what he said in this episode. But just to see, just to visually see it with the voice acting and the music, the way the point of view of Subaru, how literally the screen zooms in on Subaru's face, and you can just feel the pressure, the walls closing in on Subaru, the oppressive feeling that he realizes he is truly boxed in and screwed at this point. It just like, every little detail throughout this episode was just so vividly, like, it was pleasing to the eyes, it was pleasing to the ears, it was just outright insanely good. I haven't seen, literally, a scene like that Roswaal scene, a good of a scene like that, since the Erwin moment from Attack on Titan. And not to dive into that too deeply, because there might be some that are watching Attack on Titan or not caught up or whatever, but the thing is I haven't seen a moment like that, if you know the Erwin scene I'm talking about, since, like, I haven't seen a scene that's really made me that emotional since Erwin. And this episode, whoa. So, okay, I know people probably want me to talk about the whole Witches' Tea Party and everything that happened, because there's a lot there. You got the Satella stuff, you got Minerva, you got pride, you got lust, you got greed, you got the contract, the pact that Subaru can make with, with Ekidana, you got the whole qualification being removed. There's so much. There's so much to talk about when it comes to that, but that honestly pales in comparison to the Roswaal stuff, and I think I really want to talk about that first, because I think this is something that many might not truly understand the gravity of the situation and why Subaru acted like he did, because I saw a few people today talking about how they were very upset with, Subaru not getting angry, not raging and basically stabbing Roswaal in that moment, or at least trying to stab Roswaal. I saw many actually getting upset that Subaru just didn't have his rage moment like he would normally do. But that's the thing. That was the whole point of this reveal and why Subaru could not do that. He realized, and the flashbacks he had within his head was telling to what he was currently thinking. And I really want to dive into this moment because it's just so important to everything. Like, it is honestly the most important scene out of everything throughout the entirety of Season 2 and even of Season 1. It is the single most important scene. And I'm going to get right into that. So, he reveals he hired Elsa to attack the mansion. That is a huge detail. And the reason why this is super huge is because if he has connections with Elsa, it makes you wonder about everything that we know from Season 1. Because of just how Roswaal's character is and how he has continuously controlled every single loop Subaru has been through, boxing him in to the point to where he has to sacrifice something, either the mansion or a sanctuary. And it makes you wonder, if he has connections with Elsa, Did he actually get in contact with Felt and get in contact with Elsa to get the insignia from Amelia at the beginning of Season 1? Is that the reason why Elsa knew so much, and just how Subaru was even able to encounter Amelia and get his connection in the door with Roswaal? But then it brings into more question with the second arc. Right after that, you have, the little girl, Melee, that, disguised herself a part of the kids, that also is controlling the mob beast in these recent episodes. And the barrier was mysteriously down in the town. It makes you wonder, was Roswaal responsible for that as well? Did he literally orchestrate every single problem that Subaru faced up to this very point because of what the book told him to, for his goal, his dream, what he wants to accomplish, to make Subaru into a perfect individual, someone that he thinks is perfect? It's like, holy crap, it really just literally explodes the entire, series in front of your face. You're like, wait a minute, seriously? This man has been orchestrating potentially everything since the very beginning of the story. He has literally caused it. He knows about Subaru's return by death, or at least his redo. He has obviously been trying to pressure Subaru into being attached to Amelia, and Amelia being attached to him. And we gotta think about the fundamental themes of every single arc up to this very point, and what Roswaal stands to gain, and what he even admitted himself at the beginning of this series. He even said at the beginning of Season 2 that he allowed Subaru and Amelia to get all the accomplishments, to allow the villagers to be confident in Subaru, to be confident in Amelia, and allow them to reap the benefits. If Roswaal went in to do anything, he would have taken all the spotlight off of them, and he did not want that. He wanted to build up their accomplishments, and Subaru himself even said, why would you do this? How'd you know everything? Why would you go to such lengths and all? How could you have possibly have known I would have been able to do this? And we now know the reason why he thought that. It's because he knew that Subaru would redo it and get the ending that he would want. And Roswaal has been banking on that since the very beginning. So if we backtrack to the very beginning, we gotta look at the fundamental themes of every single arc and what Roswaal gained from every single arc, and why the reveal of him hiring Elsa is such a huge deal. Arc 1. Subaru pops up into this new world. He meets Amelia. He is that hero that pops up to get the insignia back from Elsa and return it to Amelia, which in turn allows Amelia to be in Subaru's debt to bring Subaru to the mansion. And then Subaru gets hired at the mansion to be able to actually be there. And obviously Roswaal wants that. So he got his doorway into the mansion through the first arc, got his connection with Amelia. Second arc, he allowed everyone to build trust in Subaru. For instance, because of how that arc went, gained the trust of everyone in the mansion, Rim and Ram, and also Amelia, Puck, Beatrice, and even the village as well. That was what the whole fundamental purpose of the second arc was about. Then we gotta think about the third arc. The third arc was to kind of set up Subaru as someone that was fundamentally crazy, insane in terms of a knight. Like, he was someone that could definitely stand out and help out Amelia to her goal of being, the ruler of the kingdom. And that was all about that. For instance, Subaru taking down the White Well, the witch's cult, everything about that. And so, when we look at everything that Roswaal stands to gain and what he's been obviously trying to do since the very beginning, it's very clear he's potentially orchestrated everything up to this very point. He is literally the mastermind. He has been Subaru's enemy since day one. Since Subaru stepped into this new world, Roswaal has been his greatest obstacle, and now Subaru is aware of it. And now that makes sense. Now this explains why Subaru did not get into a fit of anger, why he did not instantly rush at Roswaal, why he didn't do anything, and why he decided to get weak in the knees, start shaking, because he realized the gravity of the situation, and he got on his knees and started to beg, because that was the only thing he knew in that moment that he could do. He knew there is nothing else. There is no talking to a man that is literally the cause of every single problem that he has faced since the very beginning. No matter the loop Subaru has faced, Roswaal has always been ahead of him, no matter what direction he's taken. Because if we are inclined to believe, if Roswaal has connections with Elsa and Melee to hire them to the mansion, he is potentially the one that caused the events of Season 1 to even start, with Elsa, and then the mansion ordeal with the barrier being down, allowing the mob beast to come in for some mysterious reason, and then Roswaal miraculously being gone throughout, Arc 3 with the White Well, to allow Subaru to gain the benefits and allow the witches cult to attack, and this also shows that he even allowed Rim to die. He allowed all of this, and you gotta imagine, Subaru doesn't know what to do. How would you react if you've been through literal hell? Like, you have walked through hell itself, and you have seen so much horrible things, so much bad things. You thought Sloth was your enemy. You thought Ekidana was your enemy, or even the Witch of Envy. You thought Garfield was enemy, but no, he was thinking too small-minded. Roswaal, the man that was literally laying in bed this entire season, has done more than Subaru has done throughout the entirety of Season 1 and Season 2. He is literally potentially the cause of everything. That is the most mind-blowing and scary thing about this whole episode, and why that scene is so impactful, and why Subaru was literally scared and shaking, because how do you fight that? How do you fight an individual that has been controlling you to this point? Really, there's not much you can really do, because even if Subaru ends him right there, it's not going to do anything. And technically, Roswaal wins in the end, because Subaru sacrificed something to be able to gain his goal. And that's what Roswaal wants, too. So he's damned if he does, damned if he don't. And on top of that, now that he cannot even go into the tomb to do the trials, he's even more cornered now. Now he's literally having to choose between, I'm going to sacrifice the mansion, or I'm going to sacrifice Sanctuary. He has no other option, and that has been the greatest weakness of Return by Death that's been presented for a very long time. Subaru may have the gift of Return by Death, but he's one man. He cannot be in two locations at once. That's how it is. So because of that whole ordeal, he cannot save the mansion and Sanctuary at the same time with the time limits that have been given to him. And even with his conversation with Roswaal made it fundamentally clear that he will not call off the attack on the mansion. He refused. He's like, even more now knowing that you have lost your qualification, I definitely now will not back down, and I will continue to press you harder and harder and harder and harder until you finally snap to the point where you have to choose one or the other. He now knows it is the only option available to Subaru. He has to choose, and that is why I think the scene is just so impactful. It gives so much context, so much information that the series has been building up since the very beginning. Why Roswaal has acted like he does, why he acts so shifty, why he has been hiding behind the scenes, everything. All of his motives, every little detail of how he's been calculating and trying to manipulate Subaru down a certain path. All of this was thanks to his ideals of what he wanted. Scary stuff. And it's honestly beautiful and excellent voice acting. The voice actor of Dio, like, holy crap. I know he's always been a good voice actor, even to voice Dio like he does, but the performance of him playing as Roswaal is astounding. How he's able to go from a very quiet tone of, like, giving up to a tone of just absolute evil and menacing aura, and no pun intended towards JoJo. It's like, the voice actor really knows his role. He knows how to give a character a lot of life, and I think there is no better voice actor for Roswaal than Dio's voice actor. There is just no better, especially for a reveal like what we got within this episode. There is just nothing better than that voice actor for the role. But the music also carried the scene as well, especially with the reveal with him actually admitting to what's going on. The music in that scene is just breathtaking. And then the camera angles of, like I already said earlier on in this video, with it boxing in Subaru, and you seeing it zoom in on Subaru's face as you feel the oppressive nature of Roswaal just eyeing Subaru, and Subaru realizes that there is literally nothing you do. He's getting choked, literally, to death because there's just nothing he can do to escape this situation anymore. He is truly cornered now. There is no backing up anymore. He has to only go forward. It's scary. So let's talk about other stuff, because I could talk about this Roswaal stuff quite a bit, because there is so much to it, and I'm scared I might get into some spoilers. So anyways, I guess let's move into the Witch's Tea Party, because this is another powerful moment to the episode that gives a lot of context to the Witch of Envy, Satella, Ekidana, Pride, Sloth, just all of the witches. It gives so much more detail to everything, and I am truly happy to say that this anime studio really does love ReZero. It wasn't a fluke of how well done Season 1 was. Like, when Season 1 came out, many thought that maybe it was just like, it was luck. It was like One Punch Man. Like, man, this anime studio is just, they went in for one season, but that's it. Like, Season 2 and onwards probably not going to be as good. It's going to fall in quality, and it's just going to be a fluke. But clearly it's not. Clearly the people that are working on this series 100% do love ReZero. They love this story, and they really want to give it the best adaptation they can, because, the Roswaal scene is telling enough. Like, the Witches' Tea Party, like, even though the Roswaal scene was done so well, like, the Witches' Tea Party is also fantastic, even if there was actually some details cut out from it, and I'm kind of afraid to talk about some of the details, because they might add in to the next episode, maybe. I could be wrong, but I'm afraid to talk about it, so I want to refrain from talking about the cut details. I might either make a separate video on it or talk about it later on in this video. Most likely, I'll make a separate video on it. I think I will talk about the cut details in a separate video to avoid spoilers, but on top of that, if you are interested to know what potentially was cut from this episode, talk about it in a separate video where if you click on it, you know what you're getting into. So, okay, the Witches' Tea Party, Subaru turns down Ekidana, which was to be expected. It was very clear from just everything that happened in the previous episode, Subaru was going to give up on Ekidana and say no to her, because he realized that Ekidana had a lack of empathy, she was heartless, and she was no longer looking at anything but her goal. She was willing to trample and use anyone she could to be able to obtain what she desired. She no longer cared about anything, not Subaru, nothing, and she was outright honest about it. She didn't lie, so to say, about her intentions, but it shows just how twisted she is to even go to that extent and not even lie about it. But then seeing everything, Subaru coming to the realization about him wanting to actually cherish his life and not, die, it allowed him to realize that if he chose Ekidana's hand, he would be admitting to sacrificing. There would be nothing but sacrifices, and it would no longer be him caring about his life and wanting to be able to obtain everything. And, it's a really powerful moment with Ekidana, because it's been very clear since the very beginning that she's been putting on an act, like a mask with him. She's constantly been changing her personality, trying to see what works and what doesn't around Subaru, to see kind of what he will say to a certain situation. And obviously, it's very clear that she was always wanting to use him for whatever reason, and she was honest about it. But when you see her talk to Subaru and she's like, you're very greedy, wanting to not sacrifice yourself, like your heart, but also not others. You're very greedy. And she smiles. And in that moment, what's very powerful about this, it's kind of like saying this was the first time since the very beginning Ekidana has truly acknowledged Subaru for who he really is. She was truly impressed to see what he was, his greed and all that. She was inspired by it. She's like, this man truly is greedy. He really does follow this sin of greed like I do myself. And it's just impressive to see that her tone changed in a way, the way she reacted and how she talked to him. She even admitted a key little detail to him about Garfield. It's like, Garfield is afraid of the outside and all that. You need to break his spell. She gave him a hint, free of charge, and didn't even ask for it, which shows a lot that in that moment, Ekidana was helping him in her own way. Even if she is evil and she has disregard for a lot of things, she definitely showed some care and consideration for him in those final moments. It's probably because Subaru turned her down and admitted to his greed is why she felt respect for him. But yeah, that kind of concludes the whole Ekidana stuff. He turned his back on her, and she turned her back on him, and he lost his qualification to take the trials, which means Amelia has to take the trials now, which is a whole other can of worms because of everything we've witnessed already from this season, with her going crazy, not being able to overcome her trials, and Puck's not there, so Subaru's got to be able to be emotional support, and with him not being able to do the trials, it makes the situation at the mansion even more dire now, because he has to have Amelia clear the trials in a certain amount of time, or the mansion's just going to be done, completely done-o. So it's just like, yeah, it's bad. But, let's carry on to the other witches. Like, let's look at Satella. We get a lot of clarification to Satella as a character. Like, she, we've always seen Satella, the Witch of Envy, as this very demented, evil being that really has no sense of reason, just says love, 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 or has this weird love and attachment, envious love for Subaru, and it's always been this evil entity, and many have always thought that, you know, the Witch of Envy, Satella, was like the main villain that Subaru was going to have to overcome in the end. But clearly, that is not the case. Roswaal has been more of a villain than, you know, the Witch of Envy has, when you really do take a moment to think about it. And when you see her admit to Subaru, like, I love you, but I want you to love yourself, it's a powerful moment, because it's like Subaru needs to learn how to cherish himself. And what better way for him to learn to love himself than by never letting him to die? It's a big moment, honestly, for his character. And I know it's distorted when you really think about it, because thanks to the Witch of Envy and what she did with the Return by Death curse, it resulted in Subaru using his death to overcome a lot of problems, which has twisted him into what he is now, a broken shell of a man, almost not even human anymore. And that's why he even said, like, really? You want me to cherish my life after what you've given me? Return by Death, everything you've done? You want me to cherish my life? It's a big moment, because it's like, really, that you realize how distorted this is? And what you're asking me of, like what you're asking me to do, and then you give me something like this? So you're telling me not to use Return by Death. You're telling me not to do anything and to let people die. And he's like, really? Everything I've done up to this point, could anyone else have really done what I have done at this point? And he's like, I really doubt it. And it's powerful, because Subaru is very right. It's like, look, he has accomplished a lot thanks to Return by Death. And if he didn't have Return by Death, he wouldn't have been able to make it this far. But at the same time, when you really think about it, he's like, so you're wanting me to cherish my life and not really use Return by Death. You want me to realize the weight of life itself, which is interesting. Subaru has a very interesting outlook on life itself thanks to Return by Death. He's able to understand the weight of life itself, what life really is, how to understand what it means to live in this case. And Subaru understands what it means to live. I mean, he has died many times, and he's watched others die many times, and he doesn't like seeing people die. So it makes a lot of sense, if he cherishes other people's life, he should cherish his life as well. And that was a lesson that obviously Sato's trying to teach him, or at least wanting him to realize he needs to love what he has, instead of trying to give it away and throw it out the window. And so the path he was going down with Ekidana, what Roswaal is obviously trying to do to him, is trying to twist Subaru into a non-human being, someone that doesn't even have humanity anymore, someone that's willing to throw everything away just for one ideal, one goal itself. For instance, put Amelia before him and himself second. Everything else is useless and nothing at all. There's only one thing that is important in his life. And this kind of fits the mentality of what Roswaal is. Roswaal is doing everything for one goal, one objective. And you have Ekidana as well. She is someone that's doing everything for one objective. She is wanting her knowledge, her greed and all that, and she's willing to trample or throw anything away just for the sake of that. She doesn't probably even care much for herself as well, if it comes to just her endless greed for knowledge, etc. So yeah, you get a lot of detail on just like Subaru and how he realized that he needs to love himself, and he has constantly been putting himself in a position to where he is the only one that needs to get hurt. It's been a constant theme ever since Season 2 began. Ever since he found out what happened with Rim, and he's been constantly regretting what he did, his actions in Season 1. And those actions was relying on, others to help him out, relying on, let's say, anyone to get him out of a situation. But he saw the aftermath of that. He saw how many people died, so many casualties and losses thanks to the White Well, and Rim as well, and then Crush as well, getting damaged too, where she's lost her original self. There's a lot of people that have things that can never be taken back again, and Subaru realizes the repercussions of that, he's the only one that needs to be hurt. If he's the only one that gets hurt, nobody else has to, and their soul and everything stays intact. But that's the big thing, though. If it wasn't for all those people, Subaru wouldn't have been able to overcome that. But he's kind of regressed into a way and shoving everyone away before he can handle it on his own. And that's kind of what he's also been doing with Otto since the very beginning. He's constantly pushed away Otto's help. He's constantly pushed away anyone's help that's tried to ask him. He doesn't want help, or he doesn't want to ask for help, because he doesn't want them to be put in harm's way and die, because he's seen them die time and time again, and he doesn't want to see that no more. But obviously, he's not respecting the feelings of others in each individual loop that he's in. He's only looking at the end result, not the actual journey. And that is a big thing that he was taught thanks to to what Roswaal said to him, but also Ekidana. They care more about ends justify the means, and that's kind of what Subaru has been doing. Even if he doesn't want to be like Roswaal, he doesn't want to be like Ekidana, he is still going down that path. The ends justify the means, technically, if it means saving all their lives. That's kind of what he views it as. It's like, if I have to sacrifice my life and die, let's say, 100 million times to be able to save them, I will. As long as if I'm the only one getting hurt, the ends justify the means. And that's a huge detail right there for Subaru's character. So he's learned a hard lesson about everything when it comes to just life itself, and Satella really isn't as evil as we all thought. Which gets into the next thing. Satella says, I want you to kill me, and then Subaru denies her and is like, I will save you. This is a huge, huge thing, because this is basically a goal of the series now. Subaru has a goal to save Satella instead of killing her, and now when he says save, it makes you wonder. When he says save, does he mean, like, I want to save you from where you don't want to die for you could cherish your life? I want you to, be able to, be saved for you're not sealed anymore. There's so many things that you can gather from that, and it makes you wonder what those words really do mean in the end, and what Subaru meant by I will save you, and her saying please kill me. And it's ironic that she would give Subaru something like return by death, but also the ability to cherish his life, when it's clear that she might not even cherish her own life. Makes you wonder. But, okay, let's talk about the other witches real quick, before I kind of, like, wrap up this video. So, when it comes to the other witches, we get to see every single witch has their own role to play, their own opinions on the matter. For instance, when it comes to how they interacted with Subaru, and if they wanted to save him or let him die, etc. Like, you have the Witch of Pride. She butts in to allow Subaru to die, because that was his decision. You have, Minerva not wanting to see Subaru get hurt physically, so she wants to save him, but obviously when it comes to the inside mental pain that he's going through, she probably doesn't care as much, which might be the reason why she's actually a witch, because she cares about what she sees, but not what she can't see. Then you have the whole situation with Gluttony, and how she stepped in because Subaru made her a promise, like, I'll take down, the Great Rabbit and all that, your beast and your children, because of what you have done and how they plagued the world, and that's why she was interested in saving Subaru. Then you have, Sloth stepping in because she thinks that Subaru acting like he is, emotionally speaking, she agrees with him, and acting like he's a child, being emotionally upset, scared, whatever, wanting to stand still. She agrees emotionally with Subaru, and all the witches basically have a role to play. Even Lust, she feels like Subaru is not understanding the feelings and weight of what everybody's giving. For instance, like how Satella loves Subaru, wants him to love himself, but also how Subaru has so many people around him that loves him and wants him to succeed and be successful, but he doesn't see that whatsoever, and, even the Witch of Lust wanted him to actually visualize that. So every witch had their own role to play and kind of what they wanted to say to Subaru, which makes it so powerful that they all have their own reasons to help him out, even if they conflict with each other. So cool stuff. Lastly, what I want to talk about before I kind of wrap up this video is the stuff with Otto. So Otto as a character, I think many are going to become a huge fan of him after this episode. Like, they were probably already fans. Many of you were probably already fans thanks to just the whole scene where he admitted to Subaru he was, Subaru's friend. But this episode, Subaru returns the gesture and is like, I'm your friend, and then walks away. And then you have Otto go in and just punch him in the face. And he's like, stop putting on, like, a face to try to hide what you're really feeling. Tell me how you really feel, etc. Otto's like, just stop lying to me. Like, just tell me how you really feel. Tell me what you're going through. Like, I want to hear what you're going through. I know you're going through a lot of pain. It's very clear. Tell me what's going on. And Otto is just straight up confronting Subaru about it. Like, freaking tell me. Like, just straight up tell me. I want to know these things and what's going on. I want to help out a friend, but you're keeping everybody excluded, pushing people away where we can't actually help you out. You're just suffering alone when there's others that might actually want to help you. For instance, Patra, that's, going out of her way to drag Subaru out of, the tomb where he was taking the trial. And now Otto, it's just like, yeah. So just everything about Otto, I think many are going to love. They're going to love Otto as a character because of what he represents and how he's really kind of like a shining light that's been really helping out Subaru in these darker times. And he is one of my personal favorite characters, and I think many are going to agree with me on that, especially after this episode. But that's pretty much about it. What a fantastic season. Like, final thoughts, which I plan to probably do another video on this to talk about it a little bit more in depth. There's some things that need to be dived into that needs its own separate focused video on. But overall thoughts, though, this season has been fantastic. As someone that has read the web novel, not the light novel, but the web novel, I am so satisfied with this season. I can't believe just how good this is and how this actually even surpassed what season 1 was. And season 1 was phenomenal. This is such a good season. And words cannot begin to describe just how much fun and enjoyment I had from this series. Words really cannot begin. But I'll leave it at that. I love you guys. Until ReZero returns for Winter of Anime 2021. But until then, I love you guys. Be safe. Stay healthy. Chibi out.